Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Shawna Pelton, author of Voices of the 21st Century, Bold, Brave, Brilliant Women Who Make a Difference. Shawna, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Paul. It's great to be here with you.
Well, we're thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
Yes, sir.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who's currently writing their book?
Well, I think the best advice that I can pass along also came to me from another author, and it was about the concept related to your story and whatever it is that you're putting out there, whether it be personal help or a fiction story. You have something that you are wanting to bring out into the world, and the world is waiting for that creation. It's said that when we're tapped into that idea about when we first have an idea about our book, that it's an inspiration that comes from a higher source, right? And if we don't bring that out into the world, if we don't overcome whatever the obstacle is that we face, and I'm sure, Paul, that you're no stranger to this. There's always going to be obstacles on this journey of authorship, and whether it's writer's block or not knowing like what to do next or how to get it published or whatever. The biggest advice I got regarding this was, do whatever you can to get it out, because it needs to be birthed through you. And if it's not, then you let that creation die within you. It's almost as if it doesn't come out into the world. So therefore you're not allowing the divine to flow through you. And that's my belief system. So that's how I saw it anyway. So let it come out. If you have this book within you, it's better to have a good enough book, meaning if it's imperfect, so what? Your version of imperfect is better than your version of never done.
Exactly. Done is better than perfect.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
For me, the hardest part was the whole I'm a visual person. It's almost as if I need to see the journey laid out in front of me in order for me to understand and feel confident and have certainty around the process. The process of, like, from the very get-go, it's like, all right, well, what is this story and how am I going to put it together? To the process of identifying how am I going to launch it in the world. And I think that because I never did it before, I had no, it was like a blank canvas. I was looking at this blank canvas and I was frozen with fear and uncertainty. And I was like, I don't know what to do. So, so for me, it was the opportunity to actually get the training. So to learn from someone who's already done it, to learn their mistakes, to learn what the process was helpful, and then also to kind of work with someone who's published it or published a book so that you know what the steps are that they can walk you through.
Let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
The best strategy that worked incredibly well for me was what kept me really motivated, but what got me the best success. So basically, I actually collaborated with my book, and in that collaboration, there was a team approach to the marketing effort. And we were able to kind of move together in cadence to actually spread the word about what we were doing and at the same time. So we had this like momentum and visibility because we were all doing it together. So the marketing strategy was having a team. But even if you didn't have a team, like if you were an independent or an individual author, which the vast majority of us are, then you can actually identify people who would make good teammates, like people who are in your corner and they want to support you. And maybe they have community. Maybe they do things that are like what you do, that, to work with them to help spread the word, to get that message out there. Like, for example, I have a colleague that wanted to support me and wanted to get my message out there, and she works with Barnes and Noble. So I was able to do a Barnes and Noble's book tour. And just promoting that book tour was also another version of a marketing strategy. I basically created a talk that went with my version of the book. And from that place, I was able to market that talk at all of these different locations. And again, it's all about eyeballs, getting eyeballs on the book was what mattered the most, and getting people to hear the message, because it was about the message for me.
So you talked about doing a Barnes and Noble book tour. So tell us a little bit more about that process and how that worked.
Well, in the same way, the hard part about getting published for me was that I didn't know what it was going to look like. And so I really leaned heavily on my friend who had who had experience. And I really, asked her for guidance and insights. And she kind of told me what I needed to do and what to expect. And then from there, what I did was I looked at other people's marketing strategy with that same process, with the Barnes and Noble's book tour. And what I did was I looked up, well, what are they doing? And for example, they created an image for their talk, and they went to Eventbrite and they created an Eventbrite page where it was, buy a ticket to the talk and you'll get a book for free, so to speak. But essentially it was all kind of absorbed, if you know what I mean. Like, it was part of the, paying for the book within the talk. The thing that I did was I saw how other people were promoting their talks at Barnes and Noble's, and then I spoke with the manager at Barnes and Noble's who was in charge of this sort of thing, and she was so gracious in helping me, supporting me and doing my part. So it was really an interesting experience, but once you do it, you're like, oh, I got this, and I can do it again. So I hope that was helpful.
So how long were your talks?
I had some that were short, like 20 minutes, and then 10 minutes for Q&A after. But I do also have an hour-long talk, and I also have a 90-minute talk, although that's more virtual. I save my big talks for virtual or a big event, like if I was to do a keynote presentation. The 90-minute talk would be a big event,
And how many Barnes and Nobles did you end up doing this at?
Well, only a couple before the whole crisis hit us. Yeah. But I will pick up once we're able to get back on the road.
Got it. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
I'm going to share a couple of favorite books, and the reason why is because I think it deserves a different separation. I have one of my favorite fiction books that really got me into reading was Harry Potter. The whole Harry Potter series, I fell in love with the characters and the story, and it really got me excited about reading again, because it just wasn't something that I was doing. That's when I was younger. And then, so that's the fiction favorite book. And what I learned about it was creativity and imagination. But for my personal growth work that I do, there's a book called The Gene Keys, and it's Unlocking the Higher Purpose Hidden in Your DNA. It's written by Richard Rudd. And what I learned from it was that each one of us has within us our codes to our potential, and recognizing that we each go through challenges and that these challenges serve a purpose, and that purpose is to gain a gift that we're able to then give to the world. And this Gene Keys I've been reading it regularly for 5 years. Like it's like my Bible. I know a lot of people read the Bible, and I used to read that regularly, but this is my new Bible.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
So I am a fan of Buckminster Fuller's quote, "The purpose of our lives is to add value to the people of this generation and those that follow." And why I love it is because of how it reminds me of my mission, that, what I do and how I help people in unleashing their potential. It's all about leaving this world a better place so that the future has a better chance than what I had coming in. And then that can actually perpetuate. So we want expansion, we want growth, we want people to live in peace and purpose. And so we have to do our part to leave this world better than what we found it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
So my website is my name, shawnapelton.com. And from there, you can access me on other social media channels, or even sign up for my free gift on my website, which is a process that I walk people through called envisioneering, to create their reality, to recreate their lives. So that would be, I think, the best way to stay in touch with me. ShawnaPelton.com.
Shawna, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Paul. This has been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.